can start. Hello everyone, welcome to not this kind that you remember from a famous movie, but we're going to talk about beef stew. But I'm kind of lying a little bit because it's not really beef stew. I'm going to use venison. Now, this is quick, easy, and it'll be ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow's basketball day, so we're going to get everything prepped tonight. So all I have to do is put this on warm tomorrow and we're ready to go. So we're going to start off with room temperature stew meat. And this is just chunked up venison in pieces. That's already ready to go. All right. And we're going to get this just in a crock pot, and I'm going to put just a little bit of olive oil in there just to keep it from sticking, but it also helps to make a good stock. The reason why I want to do everything in the crock pot is because I want to have good, save as much of the juices as possible, because that's where your flavor comes from. So this crock pot actually has the browning and searing option, which is what I'm starting with. It's just a simple button there. As you can see, it's heating up now. And so we're gonna add this meat to it, and we're gonna get that cooking down. All we want to do is brown this. Now, if you don't have the crock pot that does this, you can easily do this in just a regular frying pan, and you can just brown it up. So you don't have to cook it all the way through. You just want to sear it, because when you sear meat, you keep juice in. That's what's important. All right, and you can see I'm putting in all 2 pounds because I'm making a really big pot of this. Because if you're like me, you like this stew for a few days. All right, so we're gonna get this browning. Why this is browning? Put the cover on here. We're gonna get everything else ready. So we have just the staples of what I like to put in there. And I've just got some red potatoes, skin on, but scrubbed really well, and 2 medium onions. We got some carrots and diced tomatoes. I know people go, what, in stew? Yes. Love garlic. Gotta have garlic. And we want beef broth. All right, so I'm gonna show off some knife skills here. Okay, don't move too much, honey. That'll make people dizzy. I have a new camera woman tonight. Her name is Addison, my daughter, and she's doing a really good job. And what we're going to do is we're going to get these onions. They don't have to be finely chopped because they're going to cook down anyway, and they're going to get nice and soft. But you want them, you know, so they're not overwhelming either. So I like to have them in, I don't know, I guess we'd call that about 1/4 inch or so squares. I just cut them 2 ways after cutting them in half. So we got those done. Potatoes are very similar. I want potatoes to be bite size, so you're not fighting them. So I make them about that big. I would say it's maybe 1/2 inch. And that way you're not, I want more meat than I want veggie, but that depends on the person. But as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm a meat and potatoes guy, so this has meat and potatoes in it, and lots of meat, lots of potatoes. I'm really happy. Now, if you do this with beef, I suggest you just find yourself a good, if you can find yourself some chuck, that's probably the best. Like a chuck roast is probably the best for this type of application. But, you know, any old hunk of red meat will do. It's just a little fat goes a long way for flavor. Fat is also, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's not good for you. Well, I mean, to an extent. Some marbling is really good for you. So actually I had 4 potatoes there. Pretty decent sized potatoes. I think that's going to be pretty good. And then you can get whatever carrots you like. I like the baby carrots because they're, you know, ready to go. Now I like to do things room temperature and bite size when I do a stew. So when you get things at room temperature, they seem to cook a little bit better, and they're easier to work with. chopping, except for meat. If you're gonna cube up your meat, do that in a cold state and then let it come to room temperature after you've cubed it up. We should be pretty close to the meat being seared in just a minute or two here, and I think we've got a pretty good amount. I would say this is probably a cup equal of all the vegetables, maybe a little bit more than a cup. So I have carrots, potatoes, onions. All right, we're gonna take a look, and everything's looking pretty nice there. We're gonna give it a stir. You can see they're starting to brown really well. And so these aren't quite done browning, so we're close, but not close enough. I need probably another 2-3 minutes. So I'm going to show you the other trick. When I get this going in the morning, I'm going to just put it on low all day, just pre-mix everything tonight. But right before I'm ready to serve, probably about 15 minutes before, I like to pour in about a half a cup of the quick barley. I like the quick barley because it absorbs some of the juice, thickens it up a little bit, and I really like the taste of barley, and you get a nice grain in there. The other thing I like to do is I have a mixer here, and what I do is I put about 1/2 a cup of flour in here, and then fill all the way to 1.5 cups of water with the flour. I shake that up really good, and I pour that in right before I put the barley in, and that thickens up my stew. I really like a thick stew. There's a lot to be said for a thick stew. So my meat looks like it's browned pretty good here. It smells really good. Now before I add everything else to this pot, I'm gonna put, like you saw me do before, about a palmful of kosher salt. Sprinkle that in there real good. I'll go liberal with the pepper. Probably about, I don't know, I'd say that's a good 2 to 3 teaspoons. Give that a good stir. So you got the salt and pepper in there. And if you look in there, you can see there's a lot of that juice is in there. That's why I like to use the same pot, because that starts to get everything in there. Now, if you choose to season, you can. You don't have to. McCormick makes a great little seasoning packet. This is perfect for this size, for the 5-quart crock pot size. I like to sprinkle that in there. It's like I said, we're concentrating on fast and easy. We'll get the diced tomatoes in there. I know that seems funny. A lot of people say, ooh, tomatoes, that you don't put that in the stew. You'd be surprised, kids. You'd be surprised. And then I get enough stock in there to cover everything. This is a pretty big can, but I'm, like I said, doing 7 people here, so I don't mind it. I'll thicken it up, and I believe this is a 32-ounce can. 48-ounce can. Oops. But as you can see, there's plenty of room to grow. So we're gonna get all our veggies in there. On top of that, lost a few soldiers on the floor. Those will stay for another day. And a cleanup time afterwards. Okay, try to get everything in there. And see, this has already got brought up to temperature because I was cooking the meat in it, but I'll just put the cover on and I'll let this sit in a cool place. The nice thing about doing this in winter is back porch is nice and cool. That'll work until morning. I'm just doing this the night before, because then all I have to do in the morning is turn the crock pot on low and leave it sit all day, and it'll be ready when we get home. And I can program this for as many hours as I want, so I'll put it on low heat in the morning. I'll hit the low setting, and I'll set it the timer for 8 hours, and then it'll just stay warm because this baby seals tight. One thing I didn't put in there that I promised I'd put in there is my garlic. 1 minced garlic. I was gonna press some fresh stuff, but I put a big heaping spoonful in there. I normally press my own. My garlic was dry. I should have pre-checked. I did not. That's one thing you want to check before you start a recipe. Make sure you got everything that you need in the pantry. All right, so that's the yummy venison or beef stew. And it is a crowd favorite at our house. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Adios. Yep.